The following quote can be found on page 140 at about mid-page.
If a physician of high standing and one's own husband assures friends and relatives that there is really nothing the matter with one but temporary nervous depression, a slight hysterical tendency, what is one to do? So I take phosphates, or phosphites, whichever it is, and tonics, and journeys, and air, and exercise. I am absolutely forbidden to work until I am well again. Personally, I disagree with their ideas.
I will be presenting how the medical and psychological beliefs of that time, as well as how men oppressed women, influenced Jane's illness in this story. Jane's mysterious illness has a major impact on the story. Because of it, her husband, who is a physician, tells her she must rest constantly. Her brother, who is also a physician, agrees. They hire John's sister, Jenny, to do all the housework and make sure that Jane is cared for. They won't even allow Jane to write, so she is forced to secretly write this story. The only name that she gives for the disease is nervous depression, but there is no clinical name of nervous depression. This suits the time period because psychology and mental disorders were just starting to come into the picture. The story was written in 1892, when the first psychology laboratory was established by William Wundt in only 1879 at the University of Leipzig, Germany. The first American psychology lab was established by G. Stanley Hall, a student of Wundt, in 1883 at Johns Hopkins University. In 1886, the first doctorate in psychology was given to Joseph Jastrow, a student of Hall. And in 1888, the first professor of psychology, James McKean Cattell, a student of Wundt, taught at the University of Pennsylvania and Columbia University. Then in the same year that the book was written, Hall founded the American Psychological Association. Psychology was a baby when the story was written, and this is displayed through the lack of acknowledgement of a physical illness by John and Jane's brother. Another important part of this history that is portrayed through the illness is how women were treated by men in that time period. Although Jane swears there is an illness that embodies her, her brother and her husband, who are both physicians, will not believe that anything exists. This is a symbol of how men thought of women as inferiors, and would not accept anything that a woman said as something of importance. Instead, they locked her up in the house and forbid her to do anything. It's symbolic of how men would seal their wives up in their homes to show superiority over them. The fact that his sister is helping her stay locked up by cleaning and checking up on her shows that many women did not fight for their freedom, but accepted their own role as that of being inferior to men. This next selection can be found on page 145, towards the bottom.
There are things in that wallpaper which nobody knows but me, or ever will. Behind that outside pattern, the dim shapes get clearer every day. It is always the same shape, only very numerous, and it is like a woman stooping down and creeping about behind that pattern. I don't like it, not one bit. I wonder, I begin to think, I wish John would take me away from here.
Allison will be presenting the symbolism in the yellow wallpaper.
In the yellow wallpaper, Charlotte Gilman uses the wallpaper to symbolize the mental restrictions that were placed on women during the 1800s. Jane's illness begins to show the symbolism when she feels trapped by the hideous yellow wallpaper of her bedroom. Originally, Jane is simply disgusted by the strange yellow color of the wallpaper. Coincidentally, yellow symbolizes ugliness and weirdness, as well as sickness, weakness, and inferiority. In other words, not only is Jane trapped by the wallpaper's physical appearance, but also by its hidden meaning. The random, unstructured pattern of the wallpaper defies the rigid boundaries of society, and at first confuses Jane. However, as Jane's understanding of her husband's power over her grows, so does her understanding of the design. As time continues, Jane's illness worsens, and she begins to see a woman trapped behind bars. These bars represent the cage that Jane finds herself stuck in. The actions of the woman in the wallpaper represent Jane. In modern-day terms, the wallpaper woman is Jane's suppressed personality, because she tries to escape the wallpaper, as Jane tries to escape the traditional 19th century role of a woman. Finally, Jane begins to see the woman outside of the bedroom windows during the day. But at night, the woman is once again trapped behind the bars of the wallpaper. This symbolizes how Jane perceives herself as free when John is not watching her, but is still unable to break free of her gender restraints.
The Yellow Wallpaper has been portrayed in a movie in 1977 directed by Marie Ashton, a television series in 1989 directed by John Clive, and on another movie that is coming out this year directed by Logan Thomas. Here are a few photos from this upcoming movie. Next, we have a quote that can be found on page 151, towards the top, followed by a few clips of our own representation of the yellow wallpaper.
I don't like to look out of these windows even. There are so many of those creeping women, and they creep so fast. I wonder if they will all come out of that wallpaper as I did.
I got the kid.
Although you may have found our depiction of the yellow wallpaper very interesting, you may also enjoy this video we found on YouTube, which will conclude our presentation. The website can be found on your bibliography.